Welcome to an episode of Founder in the Chair. I'm your host, Veena, and my next guest has spent over 25 years in the personal development world. She has helped coordinate Tony Robbins' first ever event in Mumbai back in 2006 and has spent decades since studying how people actually change, drawing on frameworks like spiral dynamics to understand the value systems that shape us across cultures and societies. But her work goes deeper than coaching. She works with women beneath the surface, pulling out what they didn't even know existed in them. And when she became a mother, it all turned personal. She started noticing inherited patterns in herself and knew she had to break them before they reached her daughter. So she built a framework for it, one she's since used to help the women in their own circle recognise themselves, often for the first time, and actually shift. She's the founder of the Recoded Woman, where women come home to themselves, back into alignment, instead of operating from patterns that were never really theirs. So I'm so excited to welcome Sue. Welcome, Sue.
Thank you.
So excited to have you and hear all about this. So you've spent over 25 years in personal development before this. But then what changed when you had your daughter?
So I think for me was obviously when you have your first child, it's new, you don't know anything. So when I had my daughter, I realised that I was getting advice from a lot of people, about what to do. And, just it was overwhelming. And as the years went by, I was just learning how to be a mother. And there was at one point I realised that I'm doing things, I'm saying things from the advice that's been given. And there's some subconscious things that I'm doing that actually are not mine. And I realised they're coming from my mum. And the conflict happened where I would say, for example, ask her to, I don't know, maybe not wear something. And I was like, well, that doesn't really align with my own beliefs. I think I'm fine with that. But where is that coming from?
Yeah.
And so it just went from there. And I was just so, every day, every moment, I was like, oh my goodness. And that's where it started. So, yeah. So
you recognised it in yourself?
Yeah, 100%.
So when you say it came from your mum, obviously she did it to you, and it probably came from her mum, and it's generations of advice being given to us. When you decided that you were going to change towards your daughter, how old is your daughter now?
She's 13.
She's 13. So when you decided you were going to change, what did you do? Because there's probably a lot of women listening right now, and we're all doing it subconsciously. Yeah. What was the first sort of trigger moment, like, oh my God, I'm doing this?
So, okay, I remember one specifically, and it was breastfeeding. So I was told, and I was really surprised by this because, breastfeeding is the best thing you can do for your child. I understand, obviously, some women can't, and that, everyone has their own sort of situation. But I was able to. So I chose to breastfeed. And I was advised, I can't remember my mum so much, but I'm pretty sure that she did tell me to bottle feed her as well as breastfeed because she didn't fully agree with breastfeeding for some reason. And a lot of family members were saying, just use the bottle. Just give her the bottle. She'll sleep better. And then I thought to myself, why do I want her to sleep for longer? Like, she'll sleep for as long as she needs to. And I get it, as a mum, you need your sleep. But for me, what was more important was that I was giving her the right nutrition. So that was the first moment. And I was like, goodness, it just didn't make sense to me. So, yeah. So that was definitely. So I continued to breastfeed. I did it for, I think, 6 months. Yeah. And I was.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I bet there's lots of, like you said, like what she's wearing, and you were like, why are you wearing this? But really you'd have been all right with it. But it's probably like what your mum would have said to you.
Yes, exactly. And I know you probably understand this. We grew up in a time as first generation Indians where, we weren't allowed to do a lot of things.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of things.
A lot of things, yeah.
Which we sort of managed to do somehow.
Exactly. We kind of found our way around it, but, what to wear. Even, and it's small moments, sometimes it's not even that obvious. It could be something like saying no to somebody. So I'll give you an example. I'm very conscious of this. So I don't, and it's very common in like the Asian community, you know, you meet relatives or you meet, you know, cousins and you go and give them a hug. And which is fine, you know, but I don't advocate for her to hug every single person, you know, that comes into contact with us. She doesn't need to. Because what's happening there is if you're forcing that because everyone else is doing it and because society is expecting you to do it, then you're not giving her any autonomy over her own body. And what you're saying is that, well, you just have to do it. No reason, you just have to do it. So don't trust yourself, you know, don't trust your own judgment on something. So I allow her, if she doesn't feel comfortable in a situation and we've gone somewhere and somebody tries to come over and give her a hug, and she will just stand back. And I'm absolutely fine with that. And even if I get a judgmental look, I'm fine with that. So
yeah, because they'll be like, oh, what does your daughter think she is? Or she's rude. Or
exactly.
Yeah.
And I've had those looks, but they're not raising my child and they're not going to spend that time with them when they're older. You know, they're not going to be sort of trying to, you know, unravel the trauma for her, you know, sort of thing. So, you know, for me, the most important thing is I'm raising an adult who's going to go out into the world, who's going to have self-worth, you know, autonomy over their own body, be able to say no in situations and keep themselves safe, you know. So, yeah, so that's one thing I always do, you know. I allow her to say no.
Wow. In your intro, we talked about you going over to Mumbai in 2006, first event with Tony Robbins in India.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was crazy. I'd say it was, I mean, it was 4 days. We didn't sleep for 4 days. It was amazing. It was, how can I describe it? It was a huge learning curve for me as well. Just completely immersed. You know, it was all the back end of what goes into an event. Obviously, you know, when you go to one, you see the, you know, the stage, the lights, you know, whoever you're going to see on stage. But it was everything behind. And having spent that time there as well, and actually having spent time with Robin's team, there was a lot of learning happening there as well. But it was a turning point for me because that really immersed me in that field, because I realised that there's so much here. You know, the people that we met that were part of his team as well, you know, there was so much learning, and it taught me about opportunity, and it taught me about, you know, the possibilities that we have. You know, as somebody who wants to sort of achieve something or do something in the world. Yeah. So, and at the same time, it was very hot and it was during the monsoon season.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay. So was India ready for that in 2006? Because I did UPW in 2006 as well with Tony Robbins in London, and it was very sort of frowned upon. What is she doing? Why is she doing that? She's a bit silly. She's a bit stupid.
Yeah, I get that.
So how
yeah.
was, I mean, like, if that was in London, what was it like in India?
So India, I mean, the audience was, it was the culture seems to be very sort of, they're either really with you or they're without you. They're not with you. They're either against you or they're with you. They go 100% in, you know, either side sort of thing. And we had so many people that absolutely loved the idea. There were lots of people from so many different backgrounds. There were 500 people at that event. And there were doctors, you know, there were like people that were sort of, you know, achieved a certain level in their life academically or, you know, sort of to do with their work. But we had, you know, stay-at-home mums. We had such a variety of people, and they absolutely loved it. They absolutely loved it. I know for a fact they didn't know what to expect, because India has its own gurus and its own, you know, philosophy of learning and things like that. So one of the things for Robbins was going into India was like, it was a bit of an experiment as well, because it was like, how can we break this market? But they loved it. They absolutely loved it. And, you know, at the end of it, you know, it was a time where there was no social media. There wasn't, I think we had Facebook, but it wasn't that. I think there was MSN Messenger at that time. You know?
Yeah.
So we haven't got like clips and videos to show, but we have got a short, I think one of the team had taken like a short video, not the sort of professional team, but just one of our team members. And there are people up there dancing on the stage. You know, everyone was just, by the end of day 4, everyone was just, you know, ecstatic. So it was a really successful event, and and I was happy to then, sort of sleep for the next 2 days off.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Yeah.
4 days.
4 days, yeah.
So just coming back to what you talk about. So what do you mean when you say patterns get inherited? And how do you actually spot yourself operating from conditioning rather than your own alignment? I know you've given us some examples, but if there's somebody listening now and they need to spot that pattern that they've inherited, what would you say to them?
Yeah, sure. So this is what I do, because a lot of people don't actually know how to do that. How do you recognize something? I always say, and this is how it happened for me, is that when you get that gut feeling, there's something that pulls you, like it's the feeling you get with the thought. And if it doesn't align, that it is something that, is either inherited or is in your unconscious mind. And to spot, let me think. So day to day, you have to become really aware of everything that you're doing in the day. So my example with my daughter, everything I do, of course we're not always fully aware. We operate sometimes, just because we're busy working or we're doing things. So as an example, going out with friends, she's 13.
Yeah.
And I wasn't allowed to do that. I wasn't even allowed to have friends, because they were seen as outside influence, and it's going to be bad. Because that was the mindset, that day. They didn't want the daughters to be spoiled in any way. So for me, it's like allowing her to go out, meet with friends, and do it on a more regular basis. So it's not just I'm allowing you just this time and for like an hour, but it's actually breaking through that. And for me, it's more about recognizing that in myself. What are the feelings that are coming up in me about this? Because that is the conditioning. That's the conditioning. So I'm feeling fear, I'm feeling uncertainty, and I can hear my mum's voice. So that's just a small example of, something. And I know this happens with a lot of South Asians. I know it still does, even though we're first generation Indians, I've heard it with other, sort of family members, they allow their daughters to have friends or go out, but there's a limit, and that's what it is. And it's recognizing that, it's just spotting that. And for me, it's like, well, why is there a limit? Of course you want to keep your child safe, but you can do that without that inherited pattern, not thinking there's a limit. Why is there a limit? What are you trying to do? Is that even your thought? And that's where you then sit back and think, okay. And this is what I do. So I help women, spot those kind of moments. So if I'm with, sat with a woman, I'll obviously listen to her first. And it's through the conversation that I can then highlight, this is where it's happening. This is where it's happening. This is where it's happening. Another example, keeping things in place tidy all the time. Of course we keep our homes tidy. Not saying that, you live like that. But what happens when I walk into my mum's house, the first thing I do is I start working. I start doing something. I start going to the kitchen. And that's my nervous system responding to that. Now, I then have to think to myself, actually, I did at one point start doing that with my daughter and unconsciously, because it's just something I did. And it feels right for me, and then I had to sit back and think about that, actually, because she would, sort of rebel back and be like, why do I need to do it? And that's another moment where you think, okay, if my child is asking me, saying to me, why do I need to do this? Think about it. Why am I asking my child to do this?
Instead of saying just.
Yeah, instead of saying just, right? Yeah.
Just, you're supposed to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's that point. It's like, think to yourself, why are you saying this?
Yeah.
Have you got a reason for it? Is your reason good enough?
Well, the reason normally is, well, my mum made me do it.
Exactly.
Or I did it.
Exactly. That's it.
Yeah.
And then you sort of, dissect that further. Okay, where is that coming from?
So that's inherited patterns.
That's inherited patterns, yeah.
So is this about blaming our mothers?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So that this is one thing I, stress on a lot. It's not about blaming them, because, they only did what they knew. Yeah. And they're a generation now, I've got to say, maybe there may be a really small percentage that, are happy to change things. but a lot of them are in their, sort of 70s, 80s, 90s. And it's difficult for them to change. And to be honest, to be fair, I think they have. I've seen my mum make quite a few changes. But it's not about blaming them because it's not their fault. They are only repeating what they learn. And actually, I'm just going to touch on this one thing quickly. I was watching a movie with my daughter the other day called Descendants. It's like a teeny thing. So it's just bonding time with us, I quite enjoyed it. And in the story, there were two girls and they go back in time and they're teenage girls and they don't understand their mums. They're like, I wish my mum was like this. And the other ones, I wish my mum was like that. So one of them had a mum who was really caring, really sort of really princessy. And the other one had a mum that was really controlling and, didn't care for the time of day and I suppose almost narcissistic behaviour. So they both go back in time and they see their mum's journey as from, sort of kids to where they've got to now and the reason why they've got to, this place or their behaviour. And then they actually have empathy for them and understand, So, no, we're not blaming them. And I don't advocate for that either. Granted, there are some scenarios, where you will have anger towards your mum sometimes, and through this work that can happen. But it's about getting past that, getting through that and understanding actually she only did what she knew. And you'd be surprised when you start making changes yourself, your relationship will improve and she'll make shifts herself as well. And that's an energetic thing. That's a whole completely different thing that I also sort of touch on in my work as well. So,
do you mostly just work with South Asian women?
I do because that's my own personal lived experience and I understand the culture, but I understand it happens in a lot of other cultures, and it's quite a normal thing with these generations. So I think it's Gen X, and then you've got the baby boomers. So I am open to obviously other cultures. Yeah.
So if someone is listening now and they want to work with you, because there's probably quite a few of us who are still in this pattern and we're passing it on, how do they work with you? How are you going to be able to help them?
Okay, so I've got a 12-week course that I've set up, and what you can do is go over to my Instagram page. You can book a discovery call with me. So on that call, we identify, if we can work together, and then I can sort of, go through the process of getting you booked in for the 12-week course. And it's quite intense, actually. It's not, I wouldn't say it's easy because there's a lot of unraveling that happens. But I support you throughout the whole process. And things like, throughout the course, it's identifying things that may be deep rooted inside you that you didn't even know existed. I've done this work myself, so I know. I've been doing this for a long time, so I know it can get uncomfortable. But it, when you come out the other side, it is euphoric. It's actually, your life shifts and changes. So if anyone is, looking to sort of anyone who has a daughter, or even if you don't have a daughter, and you know that you've got patterns that have been inherited by your own mum, and you're seeing them, and you're becoming aware of them, you can, book me through Instagram. In Instagram, there's a link in the bio, and you can book a discovery call with me. So
what's your Instagram?
So my Instagram is Su Pattni Neuroscience Coach. So I do use, I'm a neuroscience coach as well, but that I use as techniques techniques obviously to do with the brain. Yeah. So I use that.
So you said it's a 12-week program. How often do they talk to you?
So it's 2 sessions a month, and it's an hour and a half at the time, each time.
Okay.
But what I also do is I gauge as I go along. So if somebody does need a little bit more time, then we can sort of schedule that in. But it's 2 sessions a month. And the reason I do 2 a month is because there's time, you need time to integrate. So, for example, you've spent a session with me, your first session, you'll need time to process the information, go back, and there's journaling that needs to happen. There'll be sort of, I set tasks and things like that you have to do, and then come back and, and then we kind of recollaborate. So, yeah.
Do you also work with, let's say, the daughter?
Right, yes. So this is a question actually I was asked before. Now, I don't really work with the daughters because they come different ages. Because, and the reason I don't is because the work actually needs to be done by the mum. Because when the mum has made the shifts and changes, the daughter naturally does it herself. I'll give you an example. I actually had one client who, she's got 3 girls, and her problem was that she said, they just don't listen to me. You know, I'm just shouting at them. I'm trying to get them to do things. They listen to their dad, but they just don't listen to me. So her daughters are, I think, 13, 10 and 6. So they're still quite young. And she started implementing some of the work that I did with her. And she came back to me and she said, I can't believe it. She said, they're actually responding and, to her and, and it's work in progress. And she was just so happy because what happened then, it just helped her relax a bit. And it shifted things with the girls as well. So they're more responsive to her now. And it's made the whole family unit system a lot easier to live in, because before she was just, she was stressed, overwhelmed, nervous system completely, sort of just needed some work on. But
she did your 12-week program.
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. Okay, so they can book a free discovery call with you.
Yes.
Which is via Instagram, which we'll put the link below.
Yeah.
And then you can decide if you can work together, you can help them.
Yes. Yeah. So the discovery call is really important because for me, it's all about sort of looking forward, and in the discovery call, we do talk about where they are and where they want to go. And if it doesn't align, I don't work I won't work with you, because it just, they won't get the result that they are looking for. And if I can't offer that, it could be they may just need trauma counselling. So I will not sort of go into that. So I will obviously refer them elsewhere. But that's the whole point of the discovery call. But if, we can work together, then, it's amazing. Then I know that I'm going to be able to get you from, where you're stuck, where you, are desperate to sort of, improve your relationship with your daughter, and make shifts in yourself. Then absolutely I can take you from,
You mentioned daughter. What if it's someone listening, a mother, and it's her son?
Yeah, so you can use that with boys as well. Yeah, absolutely.
So any child.
Yeah, any child. Yeah, because the techniques and things I use, you can apply that. The only reason I say daughter is because I've got a daughter, and and girls and boys are very different actually, in how they think, how they operate. But if you've got a boy, that's absolutely fine as well. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Is there a website? Just the Instagram?
So my website, I'm just having it redone at the moment.
Okay.
I will give that to you. It should be done in the next couple of days.
Perfect.
But at the moment, the main thing is my Instagram, Su Pattni, neuroscience coach. And obviously, I'll give you the link. So, yeah.
Perfect. So thank you so much. And look forward to seeing how the next generation are not going to carry on with the patterns that we did.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you.